An annual fee forever makes very little sense for the majority of people. The 1% fee charged annually by traditional financial advisors is broken and outdated. In today's video, I'll show you how much those fees add up to, what you should be getting for the fees that you pay, and what you can do to reduce the cost while also increasing your growth. If you're paying a high fee, you want to see better performance than what you could get for a low-cost fund. This one video can save you over $100,000 if you take action on what you learned today. So for those of you that don't know exactly how financial advisor fees work to begin with, I'll start out with a little overview, and this comes directly from my experience working as a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley and E-Trade. When you work with a financial advisor, they'll typically charge you a percentage of the assets that they manage for you. The industry standard is 1%. So if you've got $100,000 invested with them, that's $1,000 a year. If you have $1 million, that's $10,000 a year. This is just on the fee charged by your advisor. They usually use funds within your account that also have fees associated. Now I'm going to share my screen with you and show you how these fees add up over time. So I've linked this calculator below. Come in here, enter your information. I'm just going to use a generic example of maxing out your IRA every single year. That's currently $6,500. As you can see from this chart, 25 years, then it asks you to put a low investment fee and the high fee. So the low would be like if you're invested in an index fund, you can get one for 0.02%, or we put 1% in here to see the typical asset under management fee charged by advisors. In this scenario alone, over 25 years, if you had the lower fee, your account would grow $85,000 more than if you were in the higher fee. Now, you can come in here and say you have $100,000 to invest with a financial advisor. Maybe you changed jobs or you've got some money sitting around that you haven't put to work yet. $100,000 is typically the lowest that a financial advisor would even accept to work one-on-one with you. But let's just look at the same scenario. You continue to contribute $6,500. And in this case, you would be missing out on $247,000 of growth that you would have if you were in a lower fee fund versus paying a financial advisor that annual 1%. Enough to support you for several years in retirement, depending on your expenses, of course, but you can see this is a significant chunk of change and it should not be ignored. Now, what should you be getting for the fees that you pay? When you meet with a financial advisor, they'll take you through some questions to figure out how conservative or how aggressive your portfolio should be. They'll want to know your goals, how much money you have overall, how it's invested already if it is. They take these answers to the questions and they submit it to their money management team. That team enters the information and brings back a portfolio for your financial advisor to then present to you. This is just the process of getting you invested. Some advisors will offer retirement and more comprehensive planning, and there could be additional fees for this service. Some advisors, instead of sending that questionnaire to their asset management team, will select their own funds for their clients' portfolios, and this just creates a whole other set of issues that I cover in this video, so take a look at that if you want some more details on what happens behind the scenes with financial advisors and their accounts. I was recently having this conversation with someone about the problem of the high fees in these accounts, and she said, well, Maggie, if the client didn't work with the financial advisor, would they still have all this growth? So we can't neglect the other side of the equation. There's the fees and then there's the growth. Ultimately, we want to figure out, are the fees worth the growth that you're getting, or can you still get that same growth at a much lower rate? Because often what I see is clients are paying these fees year after year after year, and their financial advisor is no longer offering them anything to make it worth paying those fees continuously. One of my clients that I recently worked with had been working her entire career, saving, investing in her 401k, and now was at a point where she's getting ready to retire. So she was looking at moving over that 401k and getting quotes from financial advisors that would have cost her over $7,000 per year to have them then manage that account. They didn't help with that growth at all, but now they just get to slap that fee right on that account, manage it going forward year after year with that same fee and more as the account grows. So I'll get into how I help my client avoid these fees in just a bit. But first, a few other benefits of working with a financial advisor. So we're not just harping on the fees, but they can help you control your emotions. If you're somebody that's really nervous and fearful and gonna sell anytime the market's dipping or has a crash, like it's definitely worth paying that annual fee to have that constant support needed if your advisor is even talking to you and offering you that support. That alone can save clients so much money because it keeps them invested. And my whole thing about the fee being broken is that initially when financial advisors meet their clients, they do a lot of work up front and they earn that fee initially for that first year, maybe 2 years, because it does take time, it does take planning, it does take their energy to help that client feel comfortable and confident in investing. The problem is they're so busy getting new clients and servicing their highest value clients, those clients that have the multi-million-dollar accounts, that the rest of the clients fall to the bottom of the list and never get service for this fee that they pay year after year after year. So you can see it becomes a gigantic cost to a client where they're no longer getting that service. And the reason this fee is outdated is because now there's technology that can do the portfolio management that used to be done primarily by a financial advisor. Now it's all done by technology. So why is it that we're paying the same fee we did 20 or 30 years ago, but there's so much more software and technology that eliminates that work that you used to pay for? It just doesn't make sense to still be paying that same fee and to continue to pay it forever when your advisor isn't sitting there managing your account. It's all done electronically. So what can we do instead of paying this fee? Because it does seem like this is our only option. Most financial advisors operate in this asset under management type of style. The alternatives are creating your own portfolio using low cost index funds. And you'll see if you're running those comparisons side by side, often the index funds perform better at a lower rate than the funds that your financial advisor is using in your account. You can also use a digital advisor. This creates an asset allocation for you based on how you answer the questionnaires. The cost is very low for this, and you can work with a financial professional that doesn't charge an asset under management fee. Like myself and other certified financial planners, a lot of them do have an hourly rate that you can just use to gain some support, because I do understand it is confusing, overwhelming, scary, and you don't want to make mistakes with your hard-earned money. It makes sense to have that extra layer of comfort of having somebody that works in this industry. So there's a hybrid approach like I take, where I educate clients on their options. I help them buy their investments and figure out how to set things up on autopilot so it's something that you can continue to invest in. And sometimes I have quarterly calls with clients and they just pay me for my time versus paying a huge fee on the assets that they have. Because if you think about it, somebody with $100,000 account, for example, paying that $1,000 per year, there's another client that's probably getting a very similar service that has $1 million, but they're paying $10,000. Even though the numbers are vastly different, the underlying structure of how the accounts are managed is very similar, if not the exact same. Except one person's paying $1,000, one person's paying $10,000. And there might be tax management. I just don't see a $9,000 difference in the support that the two accounts get. And this comes from working with clients at these big brokerage firms. Like, we did the same thing for the most part for a $100,000 account that you would do for $1 million account. There really should be a separate fee for asset management, and that fee should be very low since it happens electronically. And there should be another fee for the planning and the advice. Ultimately, I think it will come down to this after clients become more educated on what's going on. So if you learn a few basics and create your own portfolio, you'll not only save on fees, but you'll likely get way better performance. So I'm going to share my screen with you right now, and so we could take a look at what I'm talking about. This is Fidelity's S&P 500 index fund. I entered it into Google so that we can compare some different funds. This is 0.015. So even lower than that calculator showed earlier. And you can see over time, this has returned 48% over the past 5 years. And now we're going to compare it to some higher fee funds. This is American Fund's Growth Fund. A lot of financial advisors use this fund in their client portfolio. You can see it has a front load fee of 5.75% and an expense ratio of 0.6%. So this means you're paying 5.75% to get in, and annually you pay 0.6%. Let's look at the comparison next to the index fund so you can see if the fee is worth it. So to do this, what we do is we click More About, and it brings us this chart. Click Compare To, enter the symbol. So that's the American funds that we were just looking at. And it gives us this line by line chart. We can expand the time frame here, 6 months, year to date, 1 year. So the Fidelity Fund is the blue, the American Funds is the yellow. If you're paying a high fee, you want to see better performance than what you could get for a low cost fund. Let's look over a 5-year time frame. Look at this dramatic difference in performance. So 48% in the index fund, the low cost fund, or 7% in the American Fund's Growth Fund. Which one would you rather be in? This is exactly what people are doing when they're ignoring their fees, thinking they're in good hands. They are probably paying more for worse performance. And there's tons of examples like this. If you're already paying the 1% and then you're in high fee funds on top of it, you're paying fees upon fees, and it's really just eroding the long-term growth that you could be having in your account if you were aware of it and position yourself better. The crucial part of this whole fee conversation is awareness, knowing what you pay annually, what that adds up to over time, and if that amount is worth the service you get. If you'd like me to review your investments, help you understand your fees, and optimize your portfolio, be sure to take a look at my services in the link below. If you want to learn more about what happens behind the scenes at these big brokerage firms, be sure to watch this video next.